This video is not for whales and dolphins, it's for you, because you are just like me. Average Dog Gamer here, and today I want to talk about Zhu Yuan, because Zhu Yuan is coming back. And Zhu Yuan was so integral to the start of this channel that I feel like I need to say my piece now that she's coming back around again. Now, she's a 1.0 unit, but she does seem to have aged pretty well so far. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some pros and cons. Maybe should you pull her? Maybe in what circumstances would it make sense to pull for Zhu Yuan? And lots of walking. In terms of that 1.0 unit thing, we got Ellen as a 1.0 unit, and Ellen seemed like she was kind of designed to work with the characters that were already existing in the game, i.e. Lycan and Sukaku. And that was great in that very first patch cycle. But then in the second half, when we got Zhu Yuan, she was kind of more designed to work with potential future characters and also with Ambi and Nicole, who were both in the game as well. Then, Ambi could get replaced by Qingyi, and then, potentially you could also consider Astra, and now we're coming into a situation where you might also want to consider Trigger as well. She does seem to have aged pretty well so far, as opposed to Ellen, who doesn't really seem like she's gotten that much that could help her out. I mean, sure, Astra could help anyone out, and we did also get Lighter as well, but those felt so far away from Ellen, whereas with Zhu Yuan, it felt a lot closer because we were getting Qingyi almost straight away to give her that immediate kind of buff and creating essentially the best DPS in the game in that 1.1 kind of cycle. Now, in terms of the future for Zhu Yuan, how does that kind of look? Because if you're thinking about pulling for her now, then I'm not sure that it makes too much sense to pull for her at this point. And I'll explain why. Now, of course, before I get into this, if you're a waifu puller, then by all means go ahead, but maybe stick around because, we'll give some tips and build ideas and character ideas in just a moment. But yeah, if you're pulling more for the account power or to have an ether damage dealer on your account, I can understand that, but you might want to kind of pause for a second when dealing with Zhu Yuan. Now, as an ether damage dealer, that is still something that is only a thing that Zhu Yuan can do. As we look forward into 1.7 though, we are going to be getting Vivian, who's going to be ether anomaly, and that is then potentially going to take some of that ether damage away from Zhu Yuan and also open up ether weak enemies to anomaly teams. So we're probably going to be in a bit of a spot where, even though Vivian is an off-field anomaly agent from what we can tell from her drive discs and such, it doesn't leave me with a whole lot of confidence that Zhu Yuan is going to be a necessity for a whole bunch of accounts. Now, if you don't enjoy the anomaly playstyle, but you want ether damage on your account, then I can understand you considering Zhu Yuan. But it's important to be mindful that she is still a 1.0 unit, and we have had a lot of power scaling since then. If we compare just the raw damage output of a character like Evelyn to Zhu Yuan, for example. Anyway, let's get back to Zhu Yuan herself. So I don't think that Zhu Yuan is a character for you to just pull and then not invest into support for her. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that she benefits a lot from you pulling other characters that are going to support her. For example, Qingyi, for example, Astra, for example, potentially Trigger as well. But can you still clear end game content with just Zhu Yuan and Ambi and Nicole, i.e. the complete original free-to-play friendly team? Yeah, you can. I mean, it has to be Ether Week probably, but unless you're absolutely cracked at the game. But my average skill ass can still manage to clear Deadly Assault with Zhu Yuan, Ambi, and Nicole. And I'll be honest, it wasn't even that bad. I failed twice, I think, and then on my third attempt, I did it. It was okay, and I definitely could have broken more of the legs. I guess what I'm saying is it's still achievable for you to clear with a Zhu Yuan that is pretty well invested in terms of drive discs, and we'll talk about that some more in just a moment, but it isn't necessarily got a really supportive team. So if you are going to introduce a more supportive team member, i.e. Qingyi, i.e. Astra, then it's going to make that a whole lot easier. So we're going to continue to talk more about Zhu Yuan, but for just a moment, this is your reminder that you probably aren't subscribed. Liking and subscribing is a great way to support creators like me on YouTube. You can also drop me a follow over on Twitch if you want to chat about any of this kind of stuff live. And you can also join the Discord if you are just looking for build or pull advice from a community of awesome, chill peeps. Anyway, back to the video. So let's talk a little bit about her investment options into Zhu Yuan herself. So her Wenjin is an option. It does make her a lot easier to build because it provides a lot of the crit stats that she wants, but it's not that much of an uplift over free-to-play options. I wouldn't necessarily say that you should definitely use your 30 pulls on Brimstone, but Brimstone's really good for her. But Starlight Engine is also pretty good for her as well. So she does have some options from a free-to-play perspective that means that you don't necessarily have to invest into her Wenjin. And I think this is all stuff that we kind of covered at the time when she came out, but I think it's just important to resurface that information now. Then again, you know, if this is your first time pulling for this character and you are pulling for waifu and you want her to be easier to build, then yeah, I could see making an argument for the Wenjin as something that you want to do. And in terms of the drive discs, the main thing I want to talk about here is the level of investment required. Now, in order to have like a really good Zhu Yuan, you're going to spend some time in the mines, honestly. You're going to have to spend a little bit of time farming for good drives for her. She really wants crit damage. She really wants attack. And it's going to take a while to get you into a position where you're doing really, really good damage with Zhu Yuan. If you want to get a little bit more sweaty with Zhu Yuan, then you could run Hormone Punk, but then you just have to make sure that you're managing those buff up times. I think Chaos Jazz is a lot easier, to be totally honest with you, and then it works better in like a double support team. So it means that she's more flexible. She can kind of move between a stun team and a double support team as well. Okay, ether attack is something that is still unique. Ether damage probably going to be covered by Vivian soon, even off field. But because of the fact that we don't have other ether attack units in the game, and for the foreseeable future, we may not get them. And this is a little bit of a gamble, I guess, but the dev team, I think I remember hearing this when the game was first coming out, said they wanted ether to be a bit of a rare element. They didn't want to have lots of ether characters. So I do think that if you were gambling on the idea that you probably, that we as players are probably not going to get another ether attack character for a while, and you want that on your account and you don't really want to play Anomaly, i.e. Vivian doesn't really appeal to you, then I could see an argument for pulling for Zhu Yuan here. And overall, should you pull? I mean, waifu pullers go nuts. You know, she's great. Zhu Yuan, as I said at the start of the video, she kind of made the start of my channel. And I'd be doing her a disservice if I didn't say, as a character, I think that she's absolutely fantastic. But if you are pulling for a meta, I don't think it makes that much sense, unless you want to do something very specific. Also to mention is that in terms of kit scaling, she is falling a little bit behind. I don't think that this means that Zhu Yuan won't be able to keep up, but what I will say is that she does need a little bit of investment. And for newer players, I think it's a really tough sell. We've kind of been through some pros and cons through this video, and I think if you're just looking for a DPS for your second team, maybe you started in 1.6 and you pulled Sambi. If you're looking for a DPS for that second team and you're considering Zhu Yuan for that, I honestly think that you should wait until we see who the rerunning characters are in 1.7 to make that decision. And if you're not interested in the characters in 1.7, i.e. the newer characters in 1.7, you don't want Hugo, you don't want Vivian, and then potentially you're not interested in the rerunning characters as well, then sure, yeah, maybe then you do go for Zhu Yuan and she'll see you through until you want someone else. But you might just be better off saving those polychromes until you actually want to commit to someone as opposed to a stopgap solution. Again, you know, we're talking about this outside of the realms of waifu pullers. If you're just pulling for waifu, you go right ahead, dude. Nothing to stop you here. Now, I guess the other thing to mention is that if the characters that come back next patch are like what we expect, i.e. if it's Jane and then maybe Caesar or Lighter, then that might kind of give you some other options for you to work with. And I think that Caesar would be a pretty good option to work with Zhu Yuan if you don't have Qingyi and you're not interested in Trigger. And then you could also then still run her with Nicole. It's not best in slot by any means, but it's still an upgrade over original Ambi. And if we do get Jane next patch, then I guess it's just going to be a really tough call for the best overworld agent. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down below. Remember to like and subscribe for better than average luck on all your pulls. Pull responsibly, stay weird. Bye, 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 bye.